Hello, everybody. I was sitting at the bar, Ski rolled up on me and was like, so what you gonna do?
No pressure.
I didn't prepare anything. So I'm gonna tell you guys a story. I told this story for, I don't know if you listen to public radio, but they have a segment called the Moth Radio.
Yeah.
And they had a contest and I told this story for the Moth Radio. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to tell you guys a story about somebody that I've known for a very long time, that I just got to know last week, and that person is no longer with us. It's a story about my father. My father was born in 1918. My mother was born in 1949, but this isn't about her, it's about my father. He was known as a very peculiar, very angry man. And I think I need to put some context on that for you. In that I mean peculiar, my father loved Long Johns. And I'm not saying he loved Long Johns, I'm saying he really loved Long Johns. So let's say it's summer and it's 95 degrees outside, and my father has on a pair of Long Johns. To the extent that in the summer, you're done with school and you're like, this is great. I'm out. You're trying to meet girls. You're like, I met a girl. You meet a girl, and to you, being a 14-year-old boy, a girl that you met is the girl. She is the epitome of Venus. Whenever you see her, it is as if she's risen out of the sea in a gigantic clamshell, butt naked, with heads covered over the special parts, smiling at you, going, here's your chance, buddy. So I'm sitting there with this girl in my house. This is the image that I see. Doing everything that I can do, I'm saying everything that I can say to make it happen. And who wakes up but my father? He comes walking out of his bedroom into the kitchen in his long johns. And this chick is looking at me like, and I'm like, he'll be done with whatever he's got to do in a minute. Don't pay him any attention. And again, my father is peculiar. It is summer and he is making himself a large bowl of ice cream. But my father loved ice cream. It could be like the coldest day in the winter and he'd have a bowl of ice cream. He goes walking out of the kitchen, and he walks past me and gives me this look like, I will kick your ass in a heartbeat. I'm like, you got no problem with me, and the chick's giving him the look like, and then she looks at me, and I'm like, look, lady, he brought me in this world, and I'm afraid he's got the license to take me out of this world. So we're gonna have to deal with Dad and his long johns. Second point, angriest man alive. My father was known as the angriest man known to man. To the point that, picture it again, it's a summer day, you got kids running around, laughing and playing, girls playing double dutch, father sitting out, drinking beers and smoking joints. And then my father comes around the corner. That situation changes entirely. No. That situation changes entirely. Kids stop playing. Fathers stop smoking joints and drinking beers. They go under legs. Girls start rolling up rope and stop jumping double dutch. My father walks by, and if my father's coming from that way, everybody starts looking up that way. And to date, I have never seen what it was that was so interesting over that way. I'd be like, what is everybody looking at, you know? Then he'd go inside and everybody would look at me like it was my fault that my father was the angry bastard that he was. And I'd be like, look, you guys only get to deal with him for like, what was that, 5 minutes? I gotta go follow him in the house and put up with him. So, one day, I was talking to this guy, and I work for Excel Energy in their credit department, so that's another great story. That's another time. So I'm talking to this guy, and he says to me, look, man, I don't have your money, and I'm I'm not gonna have it. I'm a contractor, and as soon as these people pay me, I'll pay you. And I was sympathetic with him. I was like, yeah, my father was a contractor, so I know what you mean. And then that conversation turned into not a phone conversation. It was almost as if we were sitting in a bar like this across from one another. And it was like he leaned over the table and said, I bet you used to work the shit out of you. And I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah, my dad works the shit out of me. And I said, yeah, brother, I know what you're saying. He goes, you know, one day my mom, I'm gonna be honest with you, look, I would do everything absolutely perfect. It'd be close enough for government work. And my dad would ride my ass like I did it wrong. People would break stuff and tear stuff up, and he'd be like this great guy. He'd be like, don't worry about it. You'll learn. But me, it'd be the end of the world, and he'd tell me it was the worst thing I could have done. And I'd be like, no, I hear you, brother. My dad was the same way. I hated his guts. I actually said one time to my mother, she asked me what it was like to work for him, and I said, you know what? I hate him, and I hope he burns in hell. And she said, you know what? You're going to go to hell for saying that. And I said, that's all right, because if I go to hell, I know he's going to be there, right there next to me burning, and that's going to comfort me. And she said, you can't say that, that's a hate. And the guy says to me, when I'm telling him this, he goes, no, I know what you mean, but my mother said to me one day, she asked me what it was like to work for my dad. I said I hated it, and she said, you can't say that, see, your father is responsible for you. And he was born in 1918. So in his world, to get by, as a black man, there's all kinds of problems that you have to be aware of and dodge and be strong enough to take. And if you're not, people are going to look at him and say, see, he was a fuck up. They're going to look at you and say, his father didn't prepare him for the tasks that he had to endure. And I just thought for a minute. I said, you know what, my dad was born in 1918. And then it took me back to the stories that he used to tell me about having to cut down his friends from trees, and how he had to cut down one of our family members from a tree because they were hanging from a tree. And I was like, when I was a boy, that was just a story. But now that I'm an adult and I have context and understanding, I can say, oh my God, he was trying to tell me something. And then I just happened to get done with this guy, and it was on my break, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, I said, I can't believe how much of a horrible person I was when he was really trying to tell me something. And I sat there and I looked up at the sky and thought about all the times that he actually took me fishing and did nice things for me and tried to really teach me lessons, and how my roommates sometimes tell me, you know, Larrick, when you tell me stories about your father, you can take your father's name out of those stories and put your name in, and nobody would know the difference because you do things like he does. And I was like, oh my God, I've become my father. And I sat on my break looking at the sky, and I felt like a horrible person. And I said to myself, man, deep lost in my thoughts, I said, I can't wait till the day I get to see him. And then it was almost as if my imagination took control of the situation, and I saw my father in the sky looking down at me going, that's okay. We'll talk about that when we see each other again. Thank you.